Today we're talking about the dating paradox.
As you watch this video, don't forget to like and subscribe.
In fact, do it right now.
This video will give guidance on when you're ready to date after divorce or the death of a spouse.
That's a big question that a lot of people ask or wonder, when am I ready to date? Some people want it to be right now. Some people don't feel they're ready in 20 years. So what's the answer, Jeff?
I believe in starting to date early, but I don't believe in starting to form relationships right after a divorce or a death.
And by relationships, you mean committed one-on-one relationships.
If you want to go out and have fun with a dating partner and be very upfront about the fact that you're not ready for a relationship, I see nothing wrong with that. But what we're really concerned with is this idea of I'm trying really hard after a divorce or a death to replace what I've lost.
And it's very tempting to do that because you're used to being married. In fact, dating is very much the opposite of being married. It's getting to know someone fresh, someone you don't know at all, someone you really need to get to know better before you can make a commitment. It's information gathering, where you've had a lot of years with someone else. Information gathering in order to really get to know that person, you're starting over, fresh, brand new.
You know, we interviewed Dr. Greg Bear, who wrote a best-selling book called Real Love. We asked him what someone needs to do to prepare to date after a relationship loss. And he said 3 words: be more healed. And by being healed, what he's talking about is healed of the pain and also not being in that situation where we're needy and desperate for a new relationship. And so the paradox that Cathy was talking about is when I don't really feel like I need a relationship to be happy, I'm probably ready.
And when I'm feeling desperate for a relationship and it's so painful to not be in one, we're not ready. That's quite the paradox, Jeff.
Indeed it is. And I want to suggest that the best thing that you can bring to a new relationship is a happy, healthy, and healed self. That person, that healthy self, realizes that they might be even happier with a good, solid relationship. I mean, the Bible says it in Genesis 2, I think. It is not good that man should be alone. We do better when we're partnered. We are happier if it's a good partnership, but not if we're looking to the other person to meet all of our needs or to turn our unhappiness into happiness. That overloads the relationship and creates lots of problems.
Well, and when 2 happy people get together, they rarely have a lousy time. But when one or the other or both partners are chronically unhappy, it's really hard to get past that and create happiness within the relationship.
If we're talking about being more healed, we have to have a good idea of what we're being healed from. And again, to quote Dr. Greg Bear, it's being empty and afraid. It is, and we're empty because we haven't been loved enough. One way that we're going to become more healed is we're going to go out and seek out friends, a support system, people who are wise, who will love us unconditionally, even when we're not at the level of emotional stability or strength that we want to be.
I imagine this wise person or people in our lives being the kind of people we can be ourselves around, the people who we can tell them when we're having a bad day. We can even tell them when we've made a mistake, and they don't judge us. They just love us without judgment.
And I found wise people like that during my mid-single years. And I've said many times, my faith and my friends were the 2 things that got me through that very painful time. And I think, reach out to old friends, people that know you, and people that you can trust to really have your back, to love you regardless of the mistakes you've made or regardless of what happened between you and your spouse, to just be there for you. That kind of love, man, once you feel it, the wind never blows so cold again.
And then when you do feel that, you know the kind of feeling you're looking for in a companionship, and you know when you meet people and you date, when you don't have that, and you can let go of it more quickly and easily because you know that's not what you're looking for.
So be proactive about loving others and being loved. And that love is what is going to heal us. Love from God, love from our friends. And as I think about how the two things that got me through the painful time were my faith and my friends, we're talking about the love of God and the love of other people.
You know, I think this process does require some time.
One thing you want to be cognizant of, if you're thinking about seriously getting back into dating, is if you're unable to go out with another adult without constantly talking about your former spouse, you're not ready. We recently watched that movie again, Crazy Stupid Love. You know, you see the main character played by Steve Carell sitting there at the bar talking to anyone who will listen about how his wife had an affair with David Lindhagen. And somebody calls him over and wants to help him. And he says, my wife, and he says, had an affair with David Lindhagen or something like that.
Everyone in the bar knows this.
You've been talking about it to anyone who will listen. And the funny thing about that is it's really a caricature of what we really do when we're first mid-singles. We talk to anyone and everyone who will listen about our ex and how they did us wrong and all the mistakes they made in our relationship. And okay, maybe you need to do that for a while in the beginning to release trauma and so forth, but don't do it with dating partners, people you haven't met before. Do it with people you trust. And
don't do it endlessly. Try to graduate from that.
Right, you can't move on to a new love relationship when you are still embattled in the battles of an old one. We need to look at being more healed, and if literally you go out on a date and you find that it's becoming a therapy session for two embittered divorcees, maybe wait a little while to continue dating.
Well, and if you find yourself in a situation where someone is treating you as their therapist and you recognize that they aren't ready to date, you can become that wise person for them. You can become that trusted friend and know that that's not a dating relationship that can go anywhere just yet.
Yeah, you may bond with someone over what dirtbags your former spouses were. The problem is that if that goes anywhere, you've just found someone new to blame. And so it's important to kind of have worked through a lot of that and be able to see your own role in the problems of your former relationship. Even if it wasn't mostly your fault or all your fault, you still need to be able to see where you fell short and have some perspective about that. And if you're at that point where you're still so hurt and so raw that you can't get through a conversation with another adult without it always coming back to that, you're not ready to date yet.
I've had some coaching clients in situations where they were very wronged by their partners, and that was a concept from our book, Intentional Courtship, that they were having a hard time with. I have yet to have anyone say that it hasn't been life-changing and really beneficial, but this particular thing where we encourage people to see their part in what went wrong in their previous relationship can be very difficult for someone who's been lied to, someone who's been cheated on, someone who's been wronged in a lot of ways. But I think as I've observed these clients make some mental shifts, the general consensus that I think we can all recognize in ourselves is that we at some point desired to believe someone that wasn't being honest. And I know I did that. I know I've done that before, and you can feel really stupid and you can feel belittled in a lot of ways, but it brings us a lot of power when we recognize that maybe we wanted to believe something that wasn't true, so that we can shift to being more willing to see what is, even when we don't like it. And that's a powerful thing, to be able to recognize that part we played in being complicit and maybe even being enabling without really being fully aware of it because we didn't want to see, because it was too painful to see. And we can have compassion for ourselves about the role that we played as well.
Absolutely.
It takes time to heal from a relationship, to heal from a loss. And how much time will greatly depend on our thoughts about it and the judgments we make about our situation. We can't get past the fact that it will take time. There are definitely things we can do to make the transition smoother. We were hesitant to give a time frame in our book, Intentional Courtship, on how long each person, should take in order to be ready to date. Instead, we gave guidelines, like we're giving you here, only more in depth, of the things that we want to do to get ready. In fact, the first 8 chapters are about being more healed. It's about finding peace and reestablishing ourselves individually so that we're really ready to go out and form new relationships and eventually find a good companionship.
If you are still in that place of raw pain, you have our sympathy. We've been there. We know what this feels like. I just want to reassure you that there are good things ahead. And it might seem like, oh, really, I've got to get to a place where I don't need a relationship to be ready for one. That feels contradictory. It feels like maybe that'll take more time than I have left on this earth. But a big part of this is shifting the way you think about it, shifting the way you think about your former relationship. You will get to a point where you can look back on the good that was in the relationship that failed, because no relationship was all bad, right? You can get to the point when you can look back at the good that was there with gratitude. Gratitude for the experiences you had, even some of the bad experiences, because you may have learned very important things from the difficult experiences. And ultimately, you're going to be able to move forward with a different mindset, with a different perspective. And that is a big part of healing too.
Well, and it's through our struggles and our trials that we gain confidence in our capacity as human beings. Sometimes there's no other way in which we learn it. Now, we can become bitter and not learn the lessons that were meant for us, but if we do the personal work to find peace and healing, to be more healed, then we will ultimately learn what we're meant to learn from those experiences and grow in our confidence in the capacity we have to love and to be successful in relationships.
Cathy, I'm glad you mentioned that, because one of the most important thought shifts that we can have is if we're really in deep pain or have been, the depth of our pain reveals the depth of our capacity to love. And so if you have been really hurt and you have a lot of healing to do, know that that means you have something very valuable to bring to another relationship, which is going to bless that other person. And then you can have those thoughts like, it would be good judgment for someone to choose me, because I have something very beautiful to offer.
I remember when I was going through my divorce, realizing that I had a lot of love inside of me to give and not knowing where to put it. And I'd like to just recommend here that while you're single, put it towards you in the very best of ways to develop yourself and to have compassion on yourself and to really love who you are. That will ultimately encourage other people to love you as you are as well. I've been excited about talking about this dating paradox because it's something that occurred to me several months ago, and it's been on my mind and something I've been pondering. And as we've been preparing for this video, I've had this thought, and it's my opinion, that the reason why subsequent marriages after first marriages, second, third, fourth, and so on, end up having a higher divorce rate is because of how hard it can be to discipline yourself to not get into a relationship to replace the old one when you're used to being in one. And that is a really big temptation. And then when people aren't ready, then the relationship fails because they either didn't attract the right person because they were still grieving, or they just weren't in a place to be the kind of companion they needed to be, or maybe both. There's also a lot of people out there that just say, I want to be single the rest of my life. I love my life as a single person. I don't want to date. And the paradox is that all of those people are likely the most ready, the most eligible candidates to be in a healthy partnership. Now, I mean, it's possible that they might have buried a bunch of bitterness and not really done the work, and that's why they don't want to get married, and then, maybe it's good for them to stay single. But if they are truly healed and truly loving their life as a single person, it might be very tempting to stay in that place. But if you're in that position, you have great news. You can stay where you are, but you can also add a really good relationship to your life if that's what you desire, because you're ready.
Please don't misunderstand. We're not telling you that you have to reach some sort of ideal or perfection or nirvana before you can begin dating. We're all a work in progress. We know that. We're still works in progress, even though we're married and we have a relationship. But what we are going to suggest is the 3 H's: be healthy, be happy, be healed. If you're in a decent place in all 3 of those areas, you're probably ready to date.
If you're single and wondering if you're ready to date, feel free to reach out to us. We would love to meet with you one-on-one, as we are certified life coaches and we can help you out with that. We'd also love to hear from you in the comments. Let us know what you think.
And remember, any time is a great time for more love in your life. Thank you for watching.